It happened by accident. One Saturday, Michael was cleaning his small apartment when he noticed a folder sticking out of Emily's old backpack she had once left behind. He almost set it aside, thinking it was just school papers, but then he saw the words college applications written on the front. His chest tightened. Carefully, he opened it. Inside were drafts of Emily's essays, neatly typed and printed. His eyes scanned the first page, and soon his hands began to shake. My real father was never around. He abandoned me when I was young, and my stepdad became the man who truly raised me. Michael's breath caught. His vision blurred. Line after line described him as a selfish, absent man who chose work and excuses over his child. It painted David as the hero, the father who filled the void. Michael dropped the paper to the floor, clutching his head. No, this isn't true, he whispered. His mind raced. Emily believed these things. She wrote them down and sent them to colleges. But how? How could she think he abandoned her when he had given everything he had? Desperate, he searched the folder further. He found notes in handwriting that wasn't Emily's, Linda's neat cursive. Phrases like, make sure to emphasize how David stepped in, and don't make Michael sound important. Michael's heart pounded in his ears. It wasn't just Emily's words. Linda and David had shaped them, feeding her lies until she believed them herself. That night, Michael went through his drawers and boxes, pulling out every proof he could find. Copies of bank transfers, monthly child support payments that Linda had claimed never arrived, letters written in his hand, birthday cards, notes from holidays, receipts for school supplies, doctor visits, even a trip Emily had once asked about that Linda told her he never paid for. Piece by piece, the truth sat before him. Emily never saw any of it. Linda had hidden it all. Michael's hands shook as he packed the evidence into a folder. His heart was breaking, but now it also burned with determination. Emily needed to know the truth. The chance came a week later, when Linda hosted a family dinner to celebrate Emily's graduation. Michael wasn't invited, but he showed up anyway. He walked into the warm, decorated dining room, roses in one hand and the folder in the other. The room fell silent. Linda's smile vanished, and David frowned. Emily looked shocked. Dad, what are you doing here? Michael's voice was firm but trembling. I need to talk to you, Emily. Tonight. No more lies. Linda's face hardened. Michael, this is not the time. Leave. But Emily stood confused. Wait, what's going on? Michael opened the folder and spread the papers on the table. Emily, I found your essays. I read what you wrote about me, about how I abandoned you. His voice cracked. Sweetheart, none of it is true. I never left you. I never stopped being there for you. Emily frowned, her cheeks flushing. But, Mom told me that I wasn't there? Michael interrupted. His hands shook as he held up the bank receipts. Every month I sent money. I kept every record. Look, this is proof. He laid down the transfers. Then he pulled out letters. I wrote to you, every birthday, every holiday. I mailed you cards. I asked about your school. You said I forgot, but I didn't. I sent them all. Emily picked up a letter, staring at his handwriting. Her lips parted, trembling. I never saw these. That's because she never gave them to you, Michael said, looking straight at Linda. His voice rose with pain. She hid them. She wanted you to believe I was gone so that David could take my place. David shifted uncomfortably, trying to speak, but Michael's voice cut sharper. You let her believe I didn't care. You let her write lies about me to colleges, lies that tore me out of her story. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Emily's face paled. She turned to her mother. Mom, is this true? Linda froze, gripping her wine glass, but her silence was enough. Emily's eyes filled with tears. You told me he didn't send money. You told me he never called. You said he forgot me. Michael's own tears fell. I never forgot you. Not for one day. I worked until my body gave out, just to make sure you had what you needed. Every choice I made was for you, Emily. Always you. The room was tense, silent except for Emily's sobs. She picked up more letters, flipping through them quickly, tears streaming down her face as she realized her father's handwriting matched every memory she thought she never had. Dad, her voice cracked. All this time, I thought you didn't love me. Michael stepped closer, his voice breaking. I loved you more than anything. I still do. That never changed. Emily covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. They lied to me, she whispered. They made me hate you for nothing. David tried to reach for her, but Emily pulled away. Don't touch me, she snapped, her pain turning into anger. You let this happen. Both of you. Linda tried to calm her. Emily, listen. No. Emily shouted, standing to her feet. Her voice was raw with heartbreak. All these years, I thought my dad abandoned me. I wrote about it, I believed it, I hated him for it. And it was all lies. She turned to Michael, sobbing. I'm so sorry, Dad. I didn't know. Michael's eyes glistened as he gently reached for her hand. It's not your fault, sweetheart. You only believed what you were told. Emily broke down, leaning against him, clinging to the father she thought she had lost. Michael wrapped his arms around her, holding her tight as if he would never let go again. The family dinner ended in chaos. Linda shouting, David defending himself, Emily crying. But for Michael, one thing was clear. The truth had finally come out. And though Emily's heart was torn, for the first time in years, she saw her real father again. The days after the dinner were heavy. Emily didn't answer anyone's calls, not even Michael's at first. She stayed quiet, lost in the storm of betrayal and guilt. Michael gave her space, though every night he stared at his phone, wishing she would call. He didn't want to push her. He knew she needed time to sort through everything she had just learned. Finally, a week later, his phone rang. It was her. Dad. Her voice was soft, shaky. Can we talk? Michael's chest tightened. Of course, sweetheart. Anytime. They met at a park they used to visit when she was little. Emily sat on the bench, her eyes red from crying. She could barely look at him. I don't even know what to say, she whispered. Michael sat beside her, careful, patient. You don't have to say much. I'm just glad you're here. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I thought you didn't care. I thought you left me, and I treated you like you were nothing. I don't know how you can even look at me. Michael's throat tightened, but he reached for her hand. Emily, listen to me. None of this was your fault. You were a child, and you believed what you were told. You had no reason to doubt it. If anyone should be sorry, it's them, not you. Emily leaned into him, sobbing quietly. For the first time in years, she rested her head against his shoulder, just like she used to when she was small. Michael closed his eyes and held her, as if he was holding on to a second chance he thought he would never get. In the weeks that followed, their bond began to slowly mend. It wasn't perfect. There was still distance, awkward silences, moments when Emily wasn't sure how to act around him. But Michael didn't rush her. He answered every call, showed up for every coffee she asked to share, and reminded her, simply, that he wasn't going anywhere. At the same time, Michael took action. He met with a lawyer and began the process of clearing his name legally. He wanted proof on record that he had never abandoned Emily. He showed the lawyer the bank transfers, the letters, the receipts. His lawyer shook his head. This should have been recognized years ago, he said. You've been paying and supporting her all along. We'll make sure the court knows. For Michael, it wasn't just about the law. It was about reclaiming his dignity. He wanted Emily to see, without a shadow of doubt, that he had always been there. One evening, Emily came to his apartment with a small box. She placed it on the table. Mom packed up some of my things. I found this inside. Michael opened it and saw some of his old letters, ones he had thought were lost. Emily looked at him with tears in her eyes. She really did hide them. I'm so sorry, Dad. Michael swallowed hard and pulled her into a hug. Don't carry that weight. You're not the one who did it. Emily shook her head. But I believed it. I believed them over you. I hurt you. Michael cupped her face gently. And I forgive you. You were just a little girl caught in the middle. I can't hold that against you. All that matters now is that we start again. They cried together, and in that fragile moment, something began to heal. Michael didn't forgive Linda. He couldn't. The lies, the years stolen from him, were too deep. But for Emily, forgiveness was easy. She was his daughter, his heart, and no amount of distance could change that. As summer passed, Emily started inviting Michael into her world again. She asked him to help her shop for college supplies, to give advice about classes, even to meet a few of her friends. Each step was small, but to Michael, each one felt like a victory. The wounds weren't fully gone. The pain of what had happened still lingered in both their hearts. But for the first time in years, Michael felt hope. He had lost his daughter in the crowd of lies, but now, slowly, she was finding her way back to him. It wasn't the perfect ending he had once imagined, but it was a beginning, and for Michael, that was enough. The after-party was crowded with laughter, music, and the smell of food. Families filled the hall, snapping pictures and sharing hugs. Michael stood quietly near the back, unsure if he should even be there. He hadn't wanted to intrude, but Emily had sent him a text earlier that day. Come, please. That was enough. He watched her from a distance, her gown tucked neatly over her arm, her smile brighter than he'd seen in years. She was surrounded by friends, their voices mixing with the noise of the room. Michael's chest ached with pride just seeing her like that. Then Emily glanced his way. For a moment, he expected her to look past him, to act as though he didn't belong. But instead, she walked over, her eyes soft, her smile trembling with emotion. Without saying a word, she reached for his hand. Her fingers slipped into his, warm and certain. She led him toward her group of friends. Guys, she said, her voice steady but filled with meaning. This is my dad. My real dad. Michael's throat tightened. The words were simple, but they struck deeper than any applause or speech could have. For years, he had feared being erased, replaced, forgotten. And now, in this small but powerful moment, his daughter had given him back his place. Her friends greeted him politely, but Michael barely heard them. All he could think about was the weight of her hand in his, and the truth in her voice. Later, as the night wound down, Michael stepped outside into the cool air. The sounds of celebration faded behind him. He looked up at the stars and let out a shaky breath. She may not have chosen me on stage, he thought, but in her heart, she came back home. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Healing took time. Trust took patience. But tonight had shown him something powerful. That love, even when buried under lies, could still find its way back. Family bonds were messy, complicated, sometimes broken, but they were also resilient. And for Michael, that was enough to keep going. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. This story of a father losing his daughter to lies, only for the truth to bring them back together, shows how strong love really is. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe for more emotional stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Elena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Rachel's words from the cafe echoing in her ears. You overshadow me. You're not welcome. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her parents' faces, calm and dismissive, telling her not to make drama. She felt like she was trapped in a nightmare that wouldn't end. The next morning, she went into her office. Her assistant, Clara, noticed immediately. You look awful. What happened? Elena forced a smile, but it didn't last. She sat at her desk, staring at the stack of contracts in front of her. My sister doesn't want me at her wedding, she said quietly. She told me to stay away. And my parents, they agreed. Clara's eyes widened. What? But you're her only sister. That's cruel. Elena nodded, her voice shaky. She humiliated me in front of everyone. Said I'd steal attention from her. Can you believe that? Clara shook her head, her hands balling into fists. You've done so much for her. You paid her tuition once, didn't you? And that debt, didn't you help with that too? The memories stung. Elena had almost forgotten the nights she skipped meals just to save enough to bail Rachel out of trouble. Yes, Elena whispered, but none of it matters. To them, I'll always be the shadow, the one who doesn't belong. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the framed photo on her wall, the grand reception hall Rachel had chosen, her company's crown jewel, the place she had worked for years to acquire. Rachel thought it was just a fancy building she booked. She had no idea who actually owned it. The thought hit Elena again, stronger this time. I could cancel it. Her heart raced. One phone call. That's all it would take. Rachel would finally know what it felt like to be powerless, to be dismissed. But Clara saw the storm in her eyes. Don't, she said firmly. I know what you're thinking. Don't stoop to her level. You're better than that. Elena turned to her, torn. But she doesn't deserve this wedding. Not after everything. She threw me away like I was nothing. And I've given her everything. Clara's voice softened. I get it. But you'll regret it if you act out of anger. Walk away. You don't need to prove anything. Elena wished she could believe that. But when she went home that night and opened her phone, her resolve weakened. Rachel's social media was full of posts, smiling selfies at dress fittings, videos of her trying cakes, captions bragging about the most stunning wedding of the year. The comments burned. You're glowing, Rachel. This venue is so luxurious. Your sister must be jealous. Jealous. That word lodged in Elena's throat. They had no idea who had built the very space Rachel was flaunting. They had no idea the woman they mocked was the reason the wedding could even happen. The humiliation from the rehearsal replayed in her head like a cruel movie. Rachel's smirk. Her parents' silence. The whispers. The laughter. Elena closed her eyes, and suddenly old memories came flooding back. Rachel asking to borrow money for a business idea that never existed. Elena handing it over, never seeing a cent back. Rachel promising she'd repay the favor someday. Rachel borrowing Elena's dress for a college event, returning it stained and torn, then blaming Elena for buying cheap clothes. Rachel spreading rumors about Elena in high school, laughing with friends while Elena cried in the bathroom. It wasn't just the rehearsal. It had always been this way. Rachel took, and Elena gave and gave, until she had nothing left but quiet resentment. Now Elena sat at her kitchen table, her phone in her hand. Clara's words echoed, "You'll regret it." But so did Rachel's, "You overshadow me." She stared at the number for her venue's management team. Her thumb hovered over the screen. "Not yet," she whispered to herself. "Not yet. Let her bask. Let her think she's untouchable." And then, so Elena waited. She went through the motions at work, smiling at clients, approving designs, finalizing contracts. But inside, her anger simmered like a pot about to boil over. Every new post from Rachel added more fuel. "Can't wait to dance under the chandeliers. So lucky to have the perfect venue." Each time, Elena clenched her jaw, her heart pounding. Her dignity told her to let it go, but her pain screamed for justice. Finally, one night, she couldn't hold back anymore. She sat at her desk in the dark, the city lights flickering outside her window. The contract lay open before her. Rachel's name, bold and clear, signed under Elena's company's seal. Elena picked up her phone. She dialed. "Hello, this is Elena Carter. Regarding the Carter Hall wedding booked under Rachel Carter. Yes. Cancel it. Effective immediately." Her voice was steady, but her heart raced as she spoke the words. When she hung up, silence filled the room. She set the phone down, her fingers trembling. A mix of fear and relief washed over her. For once, she hadn't let Rachel walk over her. For once, she had chosen herself. And deep down, she knew, this was only the beginning. The day before the wedding, the perfect world Rachel had built for herself came crashing down. Elena was in her office when her phone buzzed nonstop with messages. She didn't open them at first. She knew exactly what had happened. At the same time, across town, Rachel was standing in the middle of the reception hall lobby, her face red with rage. The manager explained as gently as possible, but Rachel's shrill voice carried through the entire building. "What do you mean the booking is canceled?" she shouted, clutching the binder of wedding plans to her chest. "We paid for this. My wedding is tomorrow." "I'm sorry, ma'am," the manager said carefully, "but the owner has voided the contract. The venue is no longer available." Rachel's bridesmaids stood frozen behind her, whispering nervously. Her parents soon rushed in, panic etched across their faces. Rachel burst into tears the moment she saw them. "Mom, Dad, they ruined my wedding. They canceled everything." Her mother wrapped her arms around her. "There must be a mistake. This is ridiculous." Rachel turned back to the manager. "Who even owns this place? I demand to speak to them directly." The manager hesitated, then said quietly, "Elena Carter." The silence that followed was deafening. Rachel's eyes widened. Her parents exchanged a look that carried both shock and confusion. "Elena?" Rachel repeated, her voice trembling. "No, that can't be right. She doesn't own anything." But she knew it was true. By evening, the entire family showed up at Elena's office. She was expecting them. She sat behind her desk, calm but unflinching, as Rachel stormed in. "How could you do this to me?" Rachel screamed, slamming her hands on the desk. "You ruined my wedding. You're jealous, Elena. You've always been jealous." Elena stood slowly, her eyes locked on her sister. "Jealous? Rachel, do you even hear yourself? I have spent my entire life cleaning up your mistakes, paying your debts, making sure you didn't fall apart. And how did you repay me? By humiliating me in front of everyone. By telling me I wasn't welcome at your wedding." Her parents tried to step in. "Elena, this isn't the time." "No." Elena's voice cracked like thunder. "It's exactly the time. You've never seen me, never once. When Rachel needed money for tuition, I paid. When she was drowning in debt, I bailed her out. I sacrificed so much, and you never even said thank you. You acted like it was Rachel's hard work that saved her. I was invisible to you." Her father's mouth opened, but no words came. Her mother's face paled. Rachel scoffed, though her voice shook. "You think owning a building makes you special? You're pathetic. You canceled my wedding because you couldn't stand that for once. People were looking at me." Elena stepped closer, her voice calm but firm. "This isn't about people looking at you, Rachel. It's about respect. Something you've never given me. Something none of you have. I didn't ruin your wedding. I simply took back what was mine. And I made sure it went to people who deserve it." Rachel blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" Elena looked at her parents, then back at her sister. "Tomorrow, another couple will be standing in that hall. A young pair who couldn't afford a venue but wanted to celebrate their love. I gave them the chance you never valued. Your selfishness doesn't get to sit in that space. Not anymore. The room fell silent. Rachel's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Her parents were speechless. The weight of Elena's words hung heavy in the air. Finally, Rachel found her voice. You're cruel. You're heartless, she cried. You just wanted to hurt me. No, Rachel, Elena said softly, her eyes steady. I wanted to save myself. For once I chose me. Her parents tried again to plead with her, but Elena shook her head. Don't. You let this happen. You watched me give and give until there was nothing left. And when I needed you most, you sided with her. I won't play that role anymore. Rachel broke down sobbing, collapsing into a chair. Her mother went to comfort her, but her father simply stared at Elena with a mix of shame and realization. Elena didn't wait for more arguments. She walked to the door, her heels clicking against the floor, and paused. Tomorrow, I won't be watching you walk down an aisle, Rachel, but I will finally walk away from this family with my dignity intact. That's something no one can take from me. And with that, she left them in the silence of her office, the truth hanging heavy between them. The morning of the wedding should have been filled with joy, but for Rachel it was chaos. Friends called to ask what happened, vendors pulled out, and whispers spread quickly across town. Her perfect image cracked, and there was no way to hide it. Meanwhile, Elena sat in her office, sipping tea as the sun poured through the windows. For the first time in years, she felt calm. She expected her phone to ring, and it did. Her mother's voice trembled on the other end. Elena, please. You can't let this happen. Do you know how embarrassing this is for our family? People are talking. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. Once those words would have cut deep. Once she would have rushed to fix things, to protect her family from shame. But not anymore. I'm not responsible for Rachel's choices, she said firmly. And I'm not responsible for saving face. I've done that my whole life. I'm done. Her mother tried again. She's your sister. Family is family. Elena's voice didn't waver. Family doesn't mean letting someone walk over. Family doesn't mean being invisible. If that's what family is, then maybe I don't need it. Her mother fell silent. Elena ended the call gently, but without regret. Not long after, Elena received a message from someone she never expected, Rachel's fiancé, Daniel. He asked to meet. Out of curiosity, Elena agreed. They met in a quiet cafe, far from the noise of the ruined wedding. Daniel looked tired, his face drawn. He tapped his fingers on the table nervously. I didn't know, he admitted. I didn't know she treated you that way. I thought you were just distant. Elena tilted her head. And now, he sighed. Now I see the truth. She kept saying you were jealous, that you always wanted to compete with her. But after what happened, I can't believe that anymore. I've never seen someone fight so hard just to be respected. I'm starting to wonder if I know the woman I was about to marry. Elena didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She only said, you should ask yourself what kind of partner you want. Because marriage isn't about appearances. It's about respect. Without it, you have nothing. Daniel nodded slowly, as if the weight of her words sank deep. Later that evening, Elena sat alone on her balcony, the city lights glowing beneath her. For years, she had begged for love from her parents, begged for kindness from her sister, begged for scraps of recognition. But now she saw it clearly. She had been chasing something that was never hers to hold. She whispered to herself, the words rolling off her tongue like a vow. I don't need their approval. I don't need their love on their terms. I am enough. I've always been enough. The memories of her sacrifices returned, but this time they didn't hurt as much. Paying Rachel's tuition, clearing her debts, staying quiet when mocked. All of it had shaped her, but none of it defined her worth. Her worth was in the empire she had built, in the people she had helped, in the quiet strength she carried every day. For too long, the sun was high, pouring down its light on the graduation field, and David sat among the crowd, his hands trembling slightly as he held the program booklet. His heart was pounding, not because of the heat, but because today was the day he had been waiting for, the day his daughter, Emily, would walk across the stage and graduate. He hadn't seen her much in the past year. Life, distance, and broken family ties had gotten in the way. But today, he told himself, would be different. Today she would see him, and maybe, just maybe, she would remember that he was her father. From his seat, he scanned the rows of graduates, looking for her. When he found her in her bright blue gown, his chest swelled with pride. Emily looked so grown up, her long hair tucked neatly under the cap, her face glowing with excitement. For a moment, his eyes stung with tears. She was his little girl, the one he once carried on his shoulders, the one who used to fall asleep on his chest while he hummed lullaby. He whispered under his breath, "That's my daughter." But his smile froze when he saw where her eyes were looking. Emily was waving. Not at him, though. Her hand stretched high, her face breaking into the brightest smile, directed at Mark, her stepfather, who sat confidently a few rows ahead. Mark gave her a thumbs up, and she beamed back at him as if he were the only man in the world who mattered. David's throat tightened. She hadn't even noticed him. The ceremony went on, names being called one after another, applause rising and falling like waves. David clapped for each student, his palms numb, waiting for Emily's moment. Finally, her name echoed from the speakers. Emily Parker. The crowd cheered. David jumped to his feet, clapping harder than anyone, shouting her name with all the pride a father could hold. But Emily's eyes never searched the stands for him. They locked straight on Mark, who was already standing, smiling wide, his presence so commanding it seemed to swallow up the space around them. When Emily took the microphone to give her speech, David leaned forward, hanging on every word. His heart swelled again as she spoke about dreams, about hard work, about never giving up. And then she paused, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I want to give a special thanks," she said, her voice catching just slightly, "to the man who has been my rock, my guide, my biggest supporter. Mark, you've been more than a stepdad. You've been my real father. Thank you for everything." The audience erupted in applause, some people even standing in respect. Mark nodded proudly, soaking in the moment. David felt the words like a knife to his chest. His hands, still clasped together from clapping, slowly dropped into his lap. His daughter, the one he had loved since the day she was born, had just erased him with a single sentence. She hadn't even looked his way. The cheers around him blurred into noise, and